Hey everyone, welcome to the another episode of eCom Stories with Raja. And today I have a real brain of Amazon with us, Mr. Brian R. Johnson. Hey, welcome, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for having on the show, and I'm really honored like you come to the show, and this is means a lot for me. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so very first question is that how I can introduce yourself with the new Amazon sellers. Like you are the founder of Comunity Management, you are the founder of PPC Troubleshoot Group, you are the founder of Consulting PPC Consulting Association, you are the founder of PPC Scoop, you are the founder of Sponsor Product Academy as well, or all of the above.
Yeah, when you lay it out like that, that's a lot. That's yeah, but I've been doing this for what 6 years now. I guess I'm on now. Kind of the short version is just specifically on Amazon advertising, which all of those wrap around just Amazon advertising. Is I've been very fortunate. I've been having the privilege, I guess, of coaching or teaching over 20,000 brands on Amazon over these past 6 years. So yeah, it's definitely put the time in. So
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. So let's start that particular interview with the start of your journey. Like, for first of all, like who is really Brainerd Johnson, and tell us something about your initial upcomings, like your college life, and how did you come into the Amazon business and stuff like that.
okay. Well, like many people can probably relate, is that I did a lot of corporate jobs growing up. Growing up, yeah, I'm always growing up, right? But I probably did, gosh, 35. Well, not 35 years. I would say probably more like 20, 20 something years in Fortune 500 corporate America. Technical jobs. The Intels and the big hotel chains and that kind of stuff, mostly on the technical development side of the house.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout, I mean, I guess I'm one of those kind of stories where I wasn't the kind of guy that it was like selling candy to my fellow students in grade school. I wasn't like that level, but I certainly, as soon as I hit my teenage years, I was always just constantly just looking for the next, like what business can I run and that kind of stuff on the side. And of course, back then the technology wasn't there, and so back then it was things like drop ship mailers and placing ads in classifieds. And, that's a long time ago, well before internet. Right. But, the bug was always there. The entrepreneur bug was always there. Right. And so fast forward to when I finally kind of acknowledged that and really committed to working on my own, as it turns out, struggling for a while. About 14 years ago, I switched over and started selling products on eBay. And I started building that up over a period of, I guess, on the eBay, I sold for about 7 years. And so that was kind of my start of eCommerce, was about 14 years ago. And I did selling on eBay for about 7 years. Mostly it had to do with, it started out with, like, say, going to businesses, local businesses that were liquidating. Basically, they were selling off, a bar or a store or something like that. And I was basically taking those assets that were sold at auction and then reselling them on eBay. Well, fast forward again is the product niche that I actually got into and was selling quite a bit of was the money counting machines, fraud detectors, coin sorters, cash counters, those kinds of things, which has some interesting stories all by itself. But it wasn't until about 6 years ago that a friend of mine lured me over to the Amazon side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was during Amazing Selling Machine 2.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always done very successful as far as his online businesses, but I was kind of a novice when it came to, like, say, actual product sourcing. I was more of a drop shipper.
Mm-hmm.
So my first product that I introduced as a seller on Amazon, it was like a kitchen utensil, like a vegetable peeler type of product, right? Very simple. I could source, back then you could literally get 500 units from a supplier, and resell it. The first conference, the Amazon seller conference that I went to, there was maybe like, I don't know, 400 or 500 people in there. One of the speakers gets up on stage and says, look, there's all this huge opportunity on Amazon. All you got to do is just go out there and just take it. It's so obvious. And up on the screen, he puts up my competitor, and 50 people from the crowd said, that's a great idea. Let me go ahead and jump on that in the next 30 days. Completely just kind of pushed me. Now I innovated, as everybody should. You always should look at your product and your audience and innovate out of that. I innovated within 6 months, and I quickly learned is that throughout my career, I guess, is that you only have 6 months of any innovation before somebody else is caught up, or a lot of people have caught up. And that's been the case with all of my Amazon related businesses. But I innovated. I was the first one to come in and start accessorizing and that kind of stuff in that particular product. Within 6 months, everybody had the same thing.
Awesome.
So I mean, you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving for sure.
That's really awesome. Okay, so can you please tell us some more thing about the initial issues or a failure when you started as Amazon seller? Like, what did you actually face? Like, this is a question most of the Amazon sellers who are actually new to Amazon are asking. Like, we are failing again and again, or we are making some mistakes. So maybe you can help them as well. So if you can share some kind of the failure of yourself, so that will be really awesome.
Well, I mean, I think probably I had enough failures in the sense that, over the time, in the earlier days. Now I shift a lot of my focus over to specifically the advertising side of the house, because that's where the core of my expertise is. But I got to tell you is that one of the things that I'm teaching now is actually very relevant for any new seller who's coming out. And that is Amazon has gotten competitive enough where you have got to differentiate your product from everybody else, not just listing optimization, right? Not just SEO, right? But it's actually in your main image, in your title, where you're actually differentiating your product from a sea of very similar products, and then quickly be able to justify the value that it adds, the benefit that it provides to a shopper, because you need to be speaking to the shopper. Most sellers try to speak to the search engine. They try to stuff words in their titles, and they try to get like, oh, I'm going to get ranked higher because the search engine likes me. It's like, you're not selling to the search engine. You're selling to the shopper. So differentiating the product, it's not necessarily that you have to come up with some, genius new idea that you get a patent on and invent something that doesn't exist. Otherwise, you're just making the market and you're the first person to lose all the money and everybody else follows. That would be a common challenge or failure, I guess, that I would say is not moving fast enough as far as adapting, whether it was a course or a software product or a physical product that I've sold on Amazon. If I didn't keep that thing moving every 6 months, somebody else would come in with something better every single time. So in other words, don't plan to fail, plan to, continue to innovate. And you don't necessarily have to replace it. You simply just have to be a bit of a moving target. And what I would say on that for any new seller is, look at your competition. Even if you sell the exact same product that everybody else sells, look at your competition and do the opposite. Do something significantly different with your title, with your main image. If everybody has their images, I actually did a webinar on this just yesterday, in fact, so it's top of mind. If everybody's product is pointing down and to the right, point yours down to the left. Make it stand out, like where the shopper is scrolling through this list of products on Amazon they all look the same. How is yours going to stand out?
So you suggest that we should go with some kind of uniqueness in our product, like when we are offering our product in the market, right?
Yeah, and oftentimes it's a case of it may be difficult, especially if somebody's already sourced a product because they were modeling or copying somebody else's success.
So my next question,
I can sell that.
My next question is actually based on that. Everyone know that PPC is actually your baby, and no one in the world is more expert than you on the PPC. And so when we are talking about those persons who came to you, who already launched their products and came to came to you like, hey Brian, I think so, I need some help in the PPC. So what do you suggest them at that particular time? Like, do you suggest them to make changes in their products or listings, or like how you gonna manage their PPC campaigns and stuff like that?
It's not, it's not a single magic bullet. It's not something where you just make one change and it all just suddenly works. It is a combination of, you are using, if you have advertising that's already running, you've already collected some data about the terms that shoppers use, for instance, or how your product is selling next to other products. If you're doing any kind of product targeting or category targeting, you definitely want to have a solid strategy as far as your advertising goes. Many of us, teach some kind of strategy. There's a lot of different strategies when it comes to ads. I definitely wouldn't, when you're early on, I definitely wouldn't jump in and try to hire out too early or try to automate too early. It's one of those things where it's like, take the time, understand the strategy, actually implement it, and understand why it's working the way it is. That way you can qualify. If you decide to hand it off as you grow bigger later on, don't just give it up and hope that somebody else is going to do better than you. That's usually a common mistake there. But the combination of making sure that your product stands out from all the similar products in that product niche is very important. In the image, in the title, what many sellers do is they say, well, it's I need to adjust I don't have the right price, or I don't have the right reviews. It doesn't matter. That adds to it. You have to maybe add more value if you've got a higher price, or you need to show more uniqueness or distinction if you don't have if you don't have the social proof that some of the others do. But that's not an excuse as far as why a product isn't selling. The excuse is, or the reason is, because the product, you've got to have visibility, but you also have to grab the attention of the shopper. If you don't grab the attention of the shopper when it is visible, then they're going to skip right over and go to the next person. That's why you've got to differentiate things like your image and your product title first and foremost. That's the first thing. Yeah.
Specifically, when we are talking about the shoppers and the visitors, I think so the CTR is one of the most important factor in that
Sure.
time. Like, there are a lot of listings coming on the front end, and the shoppers have a lot of options. So why that person is going to choose your listing? So at that particular time, we need to make sure that, like, there are the three things which are showing on that particular time: your main image, your title, and the reviews. These are the three things. Right. So we need to make something in that particular three things which actually give a, like, I need to buy that particular product, so we can make that particular person from impression to a click. So I think so that is one of the
yes and no. So you don't have enough space. So if you look, like, say, on the mobile Amazon app, for instance, you've got about 80 to 90 characters before it gets cut off. You could have, a title that's 248 characters long, right? Or, 240. But it's what's in that first 80 characters or so that is critical, because you've got to basically state, here's what the product is, so that people say, okay, yeah, obviously, the image, if they're not looking at the image, which is rare because they're always looking at the image first.
And also, right, some people actually wrote their brand name in that particular 80 characters in the start of that particular time. Who does know that particular brand name?
Yeah, and so unfortunately, some categories, I would recommend putting the brand name at the end if you're going to include it in the title.
Exactly.
Some categories, they force you to put it in the front. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the nature of some certain categories. But ideally, you have a very succinct brand name that can go right in the front, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
like,
ultimately,
if your brand name is like if your brand name is Apple, then you can use that in the front of your title. But if you are like Raja and Co, then no one knows you, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you've got an unknown brand, don't try to force your brand down their throat. You're not there yet. I completely agree with you on that. It's more of a case of, you've got to state what is your what is the product that you're selling, without using any kind of fluff words like premium or organic or any of these things that people don't really, they might be looking for a premium solution. They may be looking for an organic solution or something like that. But they're mentally going to skip right over it because they see it too many times. So in other words, even the individual words that they see in the search results, if you're copying everybody else's title or they're copying you, everybody looks the same, which means nobody stands out. So you, with your image, your first challenge, you got to catch the attention of the shopper to even look at your ad or look at your listing. Now, whether or not they click through onto your listing is going to reflect, like you said, in your click-through rate on your ads or your sessions inside your business report. If you can do some split testing on that to see, am I getting more traffic because of a change that I made to my title or image? You can see that in both sessions and click-through rate, right? Exactly. And that's going to tell you as far as whether or not you're going the right direction or the wrong direction. But oftentimes what I suggest is that because the title amount, the number of characters you have, title is so short, you literally need to come up with 1 or 2 words, maybe 3, but more likely 2 words that are going to catch the eye of the shopper and also give them enough curiosity about what is unique about this product that they then click into the listing to find out more. Exactly. Now that's the second challenge, is once they get into the listing, right near the top, the additional images, the video, the first bullet point has got to solve that for them. You got 5 seconds to basically answer that question. Hey, some people say it's like, well, it's clickbait. Well, no, it's not. It's attention grabbing, saying, hey, I've got something unique, but I don't have the space to say it here. So I'm going to give you 2 words in order to get your attention, stop your eye from scrolling down, and then get to them into the listing. But then you've got to answer that. You've got to fulfill their curiosity quickly in 5 seconds about, here's why this product is better or this brand is better. Here's why it's worth more. And then you've got more room to play with in your first bullet point, in your video, in your other additional images, right?
Got it. So
then third is actually getting them to convert and say, okay, don't make any mistakes in the rest of your listing that introduces confusion or doubt. So it's a 3-step, process,
So the next question is that, what is the biggest mistake you actually seen in the, I think so, $350 million plus in sales you make. You wrote that on the LinkedIn profile. I checked that as well. So
that's true, yeah.
Yeah. So what exactly, not exactly, the most of the people who actually come to you, mostly what are the mistakes they are making in their Amazon PPC campaigns, and if you can share some kind of the solutions to the sellers, then that will be awesome.
Well, let's see here. So, kind of bringing it back to more of the advertising side. Because obviously that's that certainly is what I'm known for. Even though I've been talking a lot lately about differentiation and conversion rate optimization, which is important now. But from an advertising standpoint, is the number one mistake that I see that brands make is not using very few of the ad placements that are available. There's over 30 different ad placements available on Amazon. Most use 6, maybe 8, because they're primarily, most brands are still focused on just using sponsored product ads, primarily because maybe they don't have brand registry. If you've got brand registry and you're not using both sponsored brand and sponsored display, that is the biggest mistake that you're making right now. Because that is the biggest opportunity you've got to get visibility where most of your competition doesn't exist. It's a great way to steal market share. It's a great way to have higher conversion rates. My go-to ads are typically the product targeting ads and the sponsor brand video ads. If you have brand registry and you're not using the sponsor brand and sponsor display ad types, huge mistake.
Okay, got that. So coming to the next question, which is probably the last question as well, what do you suggest to the upcoming or the new Amazon sellers, in the terms of budgets, what kind of budget they need, or also in which business model an initial person need to go, like private label, wholesale, drop shipping. So in which business model he needs to go, and also what are the top 4 or 5 things he needs to be care on when he's going to start with his first product?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, let's talk about business models for a second, because obviously this year has shifted things quite a bit.
Yeah.
The ones that are struggling the most are going to be, of course, the brick and mortar retail chains. So
Yeah.
if you don't have any product at all, you may want to get your feet wet in simply just doing retail arbitrage.
Hmm.
There's a huge amount of opportunity because you've got a lot of shops that are struggling. They don't have the traffic they need. You can go in and you're much more likely to negotiate with the shop owner and say, look, I know you don't have the traffic here. Let me move some of this product for you. And you can walk around the store and look up to see what's it selling for on Amazon and do that kind of retail arbitrage model. That is probably more effective this year than ever before because of the pressure and the struggles that retail stores have, the physical stores have.
Hmm.
Now, that obviously means that you've got to pack it and ship it, and you got to set up a separate listing for each product you've got and that kind of stuff. So there's quite a bit of work there, but the investment is very low. The opportunity is very high.
Hmm.
Now, 3P, where you're actually going out and you're sourcing a product from a manufacturer,
Hmm.
the biggest challenge you've got on that is once you get past deciding, hey, there's a specific product niche that has a need. There's not enough supply for what's in demand.
Hmm.
If you're thinking, well, everybody needs face masks right now for COVID, that would be a huge mistake because there's 250,000 competing listings on Amazon for face masks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Even
don't just
even
look
now
at it as
Amazon
like,
is
well, I
not
need
going to
this.
allow. Yeah. Even not Amazon is going to allow the persons to sell that on Amazon right now.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it could be a restricted item, but there are plenty of things. One of the things I joke about, but I'm actually kind of serious about, is I have literally sold urinal mats, like the scented urinal mats that commercials, stores put into, the toilets in order to freshen them up. I don't want to tell anybody that I sell that, but you know what? It sells, and not a lot of people sell it. So it's kind of the same thing I was talking about before as far as differentiation. If everybody is trying to sell this one product, don't just try to fit in because, there's big numbers there. When you're starting out, find the gaps, find the holes. Say, it's like, you know what? Somebody is selling these bolts for mounting brackets for that specifically fit jet skis or boats or something like that. Something that's like, okay, I'm not in that, but nobody seems to be selling it. I've got a store down the road that sells these things, and they're closed most of the time because of COVID and there's no traffic where the case is. That might be a huge opportunity. Is they have to be able to sell online. You could even go in and negotiate and say, look, for somebody who's really enterprising here, really go-getter, you could literally go in to find the small shops, not the national chain stores. Go into a small shop, talk to the manager, where you can then talk to the owner, maybe even somebody who basically runs the store, right? And say, look, are you selling any of this online? If they're not, and they're struggling in any way, all of a sudden you become a resource. Like, if I can basically list your inventory on Amazon and I can move it, can you ship it for me? And then we both win here.
Sure. Awesome.
There's an opportunity there, but that also is it a good idea for you to kind of, when you start looking at different products, you'll find out it's like, man, 100 people, or 10,000 people already offer this product. Well, now okay, if I'm going to go into 3P and actually order product myself, that's not the one to get into because everybody's already, there's plenty out there. But if I start looking at products and it's like, wow, there's only 4 people who are selling this product, it may have very low search volume, but that means it's also under the radar. As long as it's got enough volume in order to pay for itself, that's where you would start out.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you so much for this amazing interview, Brian, and thank you so much again for your time to come onto the show. And hopefully this interview will help a lot of sellers to achieve more success in the Amazon, and we will stay in touch.
Absolutely. I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.